Hello there. Welcome back to Midwest Fantasy Football week number 8. Cheers to you today. We're drinking Bud Light Lime in Aaron's garage again. And to start off at number 8, the top score this week on the losing end was Aaron. Scott and Josh coming back with a vengeance after we made fun of them for going 0 for winning 2 weeks in a row now, putting up 192 points this week. Whopping on Aaron over here, 192.7 to 106.8.
Yeah, I'm wondering, did Scott finally trade away all the Josh's bad draft picks? And we finally got to this point.
He's definitely picked up a bunch of guys off the waiver wire.
Yeah. This 42 points for Lamb, 26 for A-Chain, 29 for Otten, just great numbers in multiple places. Not a whole lot on their bench that would have made a difference one way or the other unless they put in people with negative points. Right? I mean, just overall, a great plan this week, and it paid off, unfortunately, against me. I think the only position that I played that got more points than Scott and Josh was quarterback. Every other position I got outplayed. And then the only thing I had sitting around was I put Olave on the bench because he'd been sucking, and then he ended up pulling in 19 points.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the points have been going to Rashid Shaheed, but he's out for the season, so Olave is probably going to get a lot of those touches. So yeah. I would plug him in personally, but I don't have him. I had Shaheed. So, the one thing that I had highlighted here was, your quarterback play with 35 points, and I believe your bench quarterback of Kirk Cousins with 28, both of them better than Scott and Josh's quarterback of Jared Goff with 15. Now, they kind of ran away with it, and special teams and running, I think he only had like 98 passing yards and 15 attempts. That game got out of control before he got a chance to throw the ball at all. So there's only so much you can do about that. Over on Scott's side, I highlighted CeeDee Lamb with 42 points. I believe that was the top score of any player this week. Yeah. Really huge game. Devon A-Chain finally bounced back after Tua, I believe, played this weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch any of that game, but... and then 29 points from Cade Otton. Really, really nice game. Thinking about this matchup, it makes me think, I know we've talked in the past about doing a vampire league. Do you know what that is? Mm-mm. A vampire league is basically where you do a similar type of thing where you do this, where there's a draft at the beginning of the year. Benches are deeper, so you have more players. The only difference is that the vampire gets access to the waiver wire. Everybody else has to play their team the whole season. And if you lose at any point to the vampire, who's just scavenging from the waiver wire, which we can see what Scott is up to here, he gets to steal a player from your starting lineup.
Oh, geez.
So you can hide all your really good players against him, or you can go for the win. It's an interesting concept, and we've always wondered about, how would that work? Scott starting off 0-6, 2 weeks in a row, really good scores, kind of might be a vibe for what that might look like.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, so that was both high score and biggest blowout. The blowout was 90-some points or 85 points?
Yeah. So the only thing I did right was get 2 of the big ones this week, and they were both against me.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, the next one is our closest game. That one went to Nick this week, grabbed a win over Brandon. The T-Bolden girls, 120.8 to 115.9, about a 5-point margin of victory.
Yeah, I think I talked last week about, Nick finally being on his downward spiral. That is over, apparently. He's picking it back up. Really only had a couple things that he could have done differently to add any more points. He had Shakir with 19 on the bench, or almost 20 on the bench. Gasecki with 12 instead of Fiermuth with 3.9. But overall, most of the players performing about where they were expected to or higher in a couple. So overall, just a good lineup for Nick. Brandon too. Very, very. It was a close game, right? So, other than Myers, we would have given him an extra 9 points, which would have won the game for him. Otherwise, good lineup.
Yeah, I specifically highlighted both guys here at the quarterback play. 24 points for Jackson, 22 points for Jaden Daniels. And then you called it out, right? The only player on Brandon's team, the 17 points for him on his bench, could have slotted in at either the flex for Jalen Waddle, or the problem is there's really not a whole lot you can do about that Justice Hill spot. He doesn't have another running back. Tyler Algiers had 3.3 points. He could have potentially slotted him in, but I don't know that would have really made a whole lot of difference in the long run.
Yeah, and projected 7 points was not the lowest projection that somebody played this week. So,
we'll get spoilers. See who that was. Well, I see one here. So
Yeah,
moving into the next game. So again, we're going in terms of the highest scoring teams ranking going down. So the next highest scoring team was Eric's Wood, putting up 155.6 points, taking out Chris's Minnesota Fanboy, who only put up 101.8.
Yeah, so Eric had a couple really standouts here, Mixon with 26, Kelsey with 25, the Detroit defense, 23.5. No players under 5 points, only 2 under 10. When you compare that over to Chris's side, 5 different players under 10 points. He had multiple people on the bench that could have stepped up and helped. It wouldn't have been enough, but could have brought in Mayfield, at 22 points compared to Love's 5.5.
Yeah, Love going out for an injury. You never know what's going to happen there, right? It's tough to predict that.
Yep. And Garendo. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Isaac Garendo, former Badger.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, put up 19 points on the bench. Chris is starting to shape up to have the season that Nick was supposed to have.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Garendo here in the next couple of weeks. I know he filled in because Jordan Mason got hurt early in that game, so he was out. He's been the number 1 guy. Garendo's kind of been the number 2 or the number 3 guy. I saw a news alert that CMC is looking at coming back here in a week or two. So it'll be interesting to see how that run game evolves from San Francisco, if it goes back to CMC heavy or if any of these guys retain relevance. The only thing I noted on Eric's side is they had 4 guys over 22 points, which nearly 100 points just in those 4 guys nearly would have been enough to keep up with Chris just on that alone. So really, really good week from Eric. Yeah. All right, next matchup, 154 points from Lee. Lee's cut my balls, and over Derek's 105. What the hockey? So what's that? It's about a 50-point margin of victory.
Yeah, I like this one because the original projection was 112 to 112. Right? It was 0.13 was supposed to be the difference. So you guys both went into this assuming it'd be close, and then Derek had, Lee only had 1 player. That was, I think, under the projected score, and that was Hunt with 13.3 compared to the 13.7 projection. And then, Cook getting almost 3 times as many as he was supposed to. It is interesting that the only change you could have made to get more points would have been Irving off the bench, which, again, could have replaced the only player that got less than he had projected. Derek, on the other hand, 6 people under projection, had 87 points on the bench. But with those, I think with those individual swap outs, it still wasn't enough. So Ridley with 25 at wide receiver would have only given him 10 points. McConkey with 30.
Lad McConkey.
Yeah, would have given him 15 points, right? So you're not talking a bunch. But here, I believe this is the one you planned for a 4-point tight end.
Taysom Hill is a dual quarterback tight end. So he has games like this where he's going to get you 3 points, 4 points, and then he has weeks where he's going to get you 26 points because he'll punch in a couple touchdowns or he'll do a trick play and score a touchdown. He's a really tough one to predict, and if you're desperate at tight end, you throw a dart out there, you throw him in, and you hope for the big one, but you're planning for the crap ones. So, yeah, I definitely had that highlighted. Taysom Hill, you're running the dual quarterback. I know you've asked about Superflex so many times. Obviously, here it's working out for you, running two quarterbacks in your starting lineup. So, yeah. All right. Moving on, 147 points. Drew's D-, definitely better than a D- this week. I know that was your draft grade, but Drew put up 147.7 over Will's Galactic Gibbs Gang. Always a tongue twister, 126.8.
Yeah, so Drew had 3 different players that more than doubled their projection, right? Jacobs at 28.5, Pitts at 25, Downs at 22.5. I think only 1 player on the bench could have added 7 points. Tracy Jr. at 26. So overall, just a good lineup set going in. Especially considering that when you looked at that lineup, it looked like you were projected to lose. So I think Will probably went into this excited. He was up by 13 points, and then it just didn't work out that way. None of his players blew out their expectations. I think Gibbs was the farthest at 8 points more than expected. The rest were either less or right around what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what I had highlighted. I don't really have anything else to weigh in on that one. So, all right, moving on. I guess I can make a comment. This is a good point to talk about tight ends since you made a comment earlier. Kyle Pitts had 25 and Evan Ingram had 13. He made a comment when we were sitting down prepping for this. He's like, man, all the tight ends this week went for so many points. And I'm like, didn't you know it was National Tight End Day on Sunday? They only said it about 700 times across the different NFL broadcasts. So most tight ends did well, unless you tried to play a quarterback at tight end. Then it didn't go so well. So. All right, next matchup is my team. I got to win this week. My Detective Pikachu knocking off Tom's Always the McBridesmaid, 116.6 to 94.7.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting on this one. So if you look at actuals versus projected, so Scott was projected 96 points, Tom scored 94. Tom was projected 119 points, Scott scored 116. It almost just flip-flopped there.
Yahoo doesn't know shit.
Yeah. And what was
Neither
interesting,
do
I. That first wide receiver position, Smith versus McLaurin both scored exactly the same score, 20.5. I don't know that I've seen that before. Not a whole lot to say about Scott's lineup. Pretty much went in, got a few points more than expected from a couple of players, and it was just enough. Wouldn't have been enough if Yahoo had known what they were talking about, and Tom got his 119, but pretty good overall. Tom, on the other hand, what really bit him is Mason at 1.8 and Cooper at 1.3 and Minnesota at 1.1. Because, I mean, yeah, 3 different players just tanking. Even bringing in Eckler at 8.7 points at running back would not have been enough to make a difference.
Yeah, the big thing that I noted from this one was this is the first game back with Puka, and they announced on Thursday night that Thursday afternoon, he's like, oh, he's going to play tonight. And he's been out for 6 or 7 weeks since game 1. Oh, God, you put him in, he's either going to go off and you're going to be thrilled, or he's going to lay a complete clunker and you're going to be pissed at yourself and shoot yourself in the foot right out of the gate. I don't know that it would have mattered anyways. I mean, he put up 18 points. I still would have won even if he had to put up 0, but I didn't know that at the time. But it was still a really exciting game, getting him back, seeing him used, and getting a ton of catches right out of the gate. So Ricky was very annoyed at me because I kept going Puka, 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 like kind of Pikachu, like the whole time every time he gets a catch. So he's one of my favorite players now. So
I'm gonna talk to her and see if she can't accidentally record that the next time that happens. That would be my new ringtone every time Scott calls.
All right, and our last matchup would be Ethan's pretty good team. A limited lower week this week for him, 101.8, but still got the win.
111.8.
Oh, sorry, 111.8. Thank you for the correction. Over Trent's Deucing and Laporta John with just 88.8.
So I went into this before I started writing down, and I thought to myself, I got to make a note that I have to be nice to Ethan because he called me out last week for making fun of him too much. So I made a note right here. Be nice to Ethan. But I
offered to see if he wanted to come on camera and said he's like, I'm not a camera guy. I'm like, well, you could just sit over here and make snide jokes in the background.
Right.
You don't even have to actually be on camera.
Yeah, well, gotta protect the snowflakes.
So what happened to being nice to Ethan? Out the window right there.
So looking at his team though, I mean, obviously he won anyway, but there was a couple standouts. Kittle dominated with almost 28 points. Purdy on the bench had 26, which would have boosted him up even more. And Sutton with 17 would have done the same. Only a couple players coming in under expectation by a lot, right? St. Brown and Moore. Otherwise, pretty balanced out. And, Kittle really helped take it home for him. Looking at Trent's side, Lockett really hurt, obviously. 1.9 points. Then you had Folk at 2 and New York at 3. Just, Tucker at 3, some painful things there. The interesting thing here is this was another one, right? Tucker was played with a projection of 3.7 points. Gibson on the bench was projected at 5.5. Ended up being the right call. 3 points versus 1. But it was an interesting decision going in.
Yeah, Sean Tucker had a really big game. Either last week or the week before. He was a very popular pickup in the last couple of weeks in fantasy. Everybody said, he had this huge game. Are they going to continue to feed him the rock? Well, it turns out they didn't. So that's the kind of thing you run into when you have those guys who have those huge flash-in-the-pan games. So to be determined what happens there.
Yeah, I think the only other thing he could have done was put in Coleman at wide receiver for 18 points. Would have gotten him an extra 16 points. Wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah. That should be the last of the matchups. I didn't get a chance to look at the waiver wire pickups today. I don't remember seeing if there was anything super notable when I looked at who had claims in and like if there was a lot of contention on anybody. I don't have anything to weigh in on that one, unfortunately. Hi. Oh, you still smell like skunk. And now you're wet dog too. And then the second thing was normally talk about the IDP bet. That one was I lost my position in first place. Scotty B overtook me. He's ahead by a few points. I don't know exactly what's going on in that one. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And then Nick and I made a wager last week on the Thursday night football passing game. Matthew Stafford for the Rams versus Jared Goff for the Lions, and who would have more passing yards. Is that the right one? Yeah, I think that's the right one. It was a Thursday night game. No, it's Geno Smith because it's Minnesota versus the Rams. So that would be It's not Geno Smith. Whoever the hell the guy is, whoever the guy in Minnesota is, I can't think of it right now. I bet on the Minnesota guy. I thought that they would pass the ball more and that they would be able to shut down the Stafford and the Rams a little bit better, and they were not able to. So Nick won a 6-pack from me. I showed up at his house on Friday and just handed it to him at lunch, and then I tried to walk away. But he's like, "Oh, you should come in and chat for a little bit." But either way, so at least a few more bets showing up. So if you've got any other stupid shit to bet on, because that's what I said, I'm like, there needs to be more dumb shit. So he picked a dumb shit to wager on. So if you have anything else to throw in, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, it'll be interesting to see if I get a video out next week, Tuesday. We might push to Wednesday again next week because Tuesday is election day. So I'm sure we'll go out to vote and we'll be out doing stuff that night. So likely it may be Wednesday again, which means probably another sighting in Aaron's garage. If you're available, of course.
Yeah.
So, any other final words?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.